Okay, next we're going to do our flat stitch. On this stitch there is going to be a lot of back and forth, so you kind of have to keep track where you are. One of the things that makes this stitch easier to do is that I did not only my overall outside shape, I also traced some inner lines. I did mine a little bit far apart so that it's easier to see. Yours could be closer together, but you do want a couple inner guidelines so that you know where to start each stitch. Each stitch is gonna go from the outside to the center, and then the outside to the center of the opposite side. And so knowing where those are will help it keep even and neat, and also help so that you're overlapping just about as much as you want, not a huge amount in some areas or anything like that. So this one, we're going to work it from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to come up and see if I can do this in your direction so that you can see. So I'm going to come up, I'm going to start, the first couple of stitches on this are going to be a little small. So I'm going to come up, and I have a lot of thread on this. You don't have to have as much thread as I do, especially because if you have to stretch your arm way out, you're going to bonk the person next to you. So you could always just replace thread partway through if it gets low. So start on the outside, and I'm going to go not to the close inner guide, I'm going to go to the far inner guide. Okay? And then I'm going to, on the other side, make sure my thread's all the way through, there we go. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. To the opposite inner guide, right next to my first stitch, okay? So that on these little ones, they overlap a lot. On the bigger stitches, as we go down, won't overlap as much. And then, so this next one, from here to here, right? And then from here to here. And you could do this completely on the top by, instead of going all the way through, by going through to the outer guideline and then pulling your needle. So if I wanted to go through to there and my next stitch is going to start here, I could do it this way as well. So it looks the same, and it has the same amount of fabric on the bottom. If that is easier for you, then do it. If it's confusing, then forget I said it. So I'm going to show you how to do it that way a little bit so that my hand is on top and you can see a little bit. So I'm going to go from your left to the right hand inner guideline, and I'm going to end my stitch right here, and then I'm just going to come back up, not end the same hole, but right next to the hole from the last stitch, right? And pull my thread all the way through. And then the same thing from the right down to the left inner guide and back up right here. Now these stitches are pretty close to each other, so they're overlapping a reasonable amount, but as I get more towards the larger part of the heart, you will see that they're only overlapping in the middle and that the outsides are more flat, which is why they call it a flat stitch. So as you can see, I'm partway through and I'm getting low on thread. This one takes up a lot of thread because, as you can see on the back, it's kind of creating this little shape as well. And that's fine. So I'm going to take a couple more stitches. So remember, I'm coming from the outside to the far guideline and then back up at the outside of the other side, right? and then again to the back to the first side and up. There we go. And now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and tie this thread off and switch threads. So the process for that is simply, I'm going to go back down where I would normally go back down, right? So that that stitch looks like all the other stitches and it isn't standing out. On back, I'm just going to wind it through just like I would if I were fully done. There we go. Whoops. It's fine. Cut it off and start with another thread. This one got all folded when it got wound. I'll have to rewind that one because it makes a mess. There we go. There we go. And again, just tie off one end. And thread the other. Okay, so I came down right here, and I would, remember, we'd come down and then we would come up over here. So I'm just going to start this stitch where the last stitch would have come up if it was a continuous thread. So right there, right there. And whoop, doo -doo. Here we go. There we go. And from there I just continue as if it were still part of the same thread. And that's a good technique to know if I wanted, for example, to switch colors and make this a darker pink starting here to make a gradient, or just to make something multicolored. You would do it the same way. Or if you do it the same color, it should end up looking as if it was all done with one thread, because the end of the thread and the start of the new one is on the back, and you won't even see it from the front. Oops, got a little dirt or something there. So I just keep going the same way